The Bible's astonishing explanation of the ancient handbags controversy. What are they? And what are in those crazy handbags? If you've spent any time on the internet, you're likely encountered the ancient handbag controversy. All over the world, carved images of ancient gods, fallen angels, kings, the Watchers, they all seem to be depicted carrying these handbags that look just like modern American, European handbags. If you listen to the secular influencers on these videos, this mystery is presented as evidence of a link between these various cultures and either aliens or a former advanced civilization who are visiting them. And I mean, these carvings are found all over the place. Phoenicia, Greece, Sumer, Egypt, Babylon, Assyria, the Mayan Indians and Olmecs of Central America, the Maori of New Zealand. They're even found in India. Either they're all copying each other, or there's something that happened in the ancient past that so impressed these peoples that they all carved it. Now, it's impossible to deny that these supposed handbags look surprisingly similar to the contemporary purse. The bags in the ancient artworks typically feature a rounded handle and a rectangular bottom, and may include varying degrees of additional detail, sometimes texture or patterns. The images sometimes appear as standalone objects, but most of the time they're being depicted in the hand of a person, a god, or a mythical being, in the same way someone would hold a purse or a bucket today. Probably more important than the bag itself is the question, what's inside it? There are just as many theories about the contents as there are about the bags. Ancient technology, alien air for breathing, sometimes drugs, sometimes people think it's magic dust, ancient knowledge, you name it. It has probably been postulated and debated at some point. But did you know this handbag is found and explained in the Bible, in the Old Testament? And the Bible tells us exactly what this bag is, who carries it, and even more important, what's inside it. And that's what we're talking about today. So if you see this discussed in the future, you're going to know what it's all about. And for the research on this video, let's give a shout out to Michael Tarrant and Britt Ashley of our advisory team. I was especially interested in this research because I didn't know what these handbags were. And additionally, I didn't know what the Bible passage was that describes them or what it was really about either. Really interesting stuff today. And as always, we mention that's why you follow this channel, for discussions of important biblical topics just like this one that you just don't get elsewhere. And I'm sure this is one of those topics you've never seen before, so if you haven't subscribed, do so. Additionally, this sends a signal to the algorithm to send this out to a broader audience that are just like you. Now, back to the handbag. The first thing for us to understand is that although the handbag looks like a purse, it's actually a bucket or a basket, not a handbag. So they're not bags at all. They're identified as baskets in Sumerian texts. That's what the ancient Sumerian word for this object means. It means a basket. Now, Sumer was probably the oldest post-flood civilization, so this is really important. Sumer was likely the empire of the Tower of Babel and Nimrod. That explains how the handbags, or more properly the baskets, traveled all over the world. It was a Sumerian thing, and when the nations were dispersed and the languages were confused, this important symbol traveled with the nations wherever they went. And, as we know, these nations eventually dispersed all over the world. That's why the symbol of the handbag is found all over the world. And you're going to find this interesting. These buckets or baskets that look just like this have been found in archaeological digs in Iraq where Sumer was. They look exactly like the ones in the images. They're baskets, probably being used to carry something. And that's a clue. And who's doing the carrying? Many of these pictures depict a winged angel of some sort or divine being carrying the basket. Much Sumerian art shows this winged, bird-headed creature with a basket and holding a fruit. And in many carvings, there's a sacred tree. This has led secular scholars to surmise the basket was used to either carry water to the sacred tree to water it, or to carry fruit picked from the sacred tree. Both interesting ideas. But to any Christian looking at the sacred tree and its fruit, it should remind us of the Genesis account, where Adam and Eve originally ate of the tree of life, but were later tempted to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So is this sacred Sumerian tree that we see pictured in these artworks one of those two biblical trees? And I think the answer should be a resounding yes. The Sumerians, after all, had rather direct knowledge, being just recently post-flood, of all the stories of Noah, of what happened back in Genesis. Now, in New Zealand, another intriguing instance of handbags and basket imagery is found, which might answer which of the two trees it was. According to Maori mythology, a revered hero undertook a journey to the abode of the gods, where he acquired profound wisdom or knowledge. Upon his return to the earth, this heroic figure was said to be carrying 3 baskets filled with this divine knowledge. So, in my opinion, it's likely the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is the tree being pictured. Isn't that interesting? This fits with the Bible account too, as you're going to find out in just a minute or two. This also sounds like the Pandora's box and the evil that was released when she opened it. The world was a paradise, but Zeus handed Pandora a beautiful box, saying, "This is my special gift to you, but don't ever open it." As Zeus anticipated, Pandora's curiosity got the better of her. She opened the box, ending the earthly paradise as great woes and sorrows flooded the earth. Another story where opening something releases woes and sorrow. Now, we know what the secular and pagan world thought was in the basket. But let's look at a very mysterious Bible passage that I believe answers all our basket handbag questions and gives us an amazing insight into the entity known as Mystery Babylon, which is a knowledge-based, technocratic dictatorship of the last days. It is the entity that is the New World Order, or the one world governance system that's forming right now before our eyes. The brainchild of the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization. So that is where this handbag basket theory is headed. So let's see what the Bible has to say about this back in the Old Testament. In Zechariah 5, verses 5 through 8, we see the prophet is given a vision of a basket. Then the angel who talked with me came forward and said to me, "Lift your eyes and see what this is that's going out." And I said, "What is it?" He said, "This is the basket that's going out." And he said, "This is their iniquity or sin in all the land. And behold, the leaden cover was lifted, and there was a woman sitting in the basket." Kind of giving us a clue of what's in it. And he said, "This is wickedness." And he thrust her back into the basket and thrust down the leaden weight on its opening. So Zechariah sees a vision of a basket with a woman inside who is called wickedness, and the lead cover is placed on it to keep the woman in it. The vision continued. Then I lifted my eyes and saw, and behold, 2 women coming forward. The wind was in their wings. So they're winged. And their wings were like the wings of a stork, and they lifted up the basket between earth and heaven. Then I said to the angel who talked to me, "Where are they taking this basket?" And he said to me, "To the land of Shinar, to build a house for it. And when it is prepared, they will set the basket down there on its base." Zechariah 5, 9 through 11. The 2 women with wings carrying the basket are very similar in description to the angels or divine beings that carry the baskets in the artworks, by the way. So in Zechariah, we have a basket, and it's carried by winged creatures, just like we have in the depiction on many of the stone carvings. But in the Bible, we have the contents of the basket uncovered or identified. It is wickedness or sin embodied as a woman. And I think it's extremely interesting and important that it's lead that covers this basket so that the woman can't get out. Lead, after all, protects people from nuclear radiation or really dangerous stuff. And it's lead that covers the basket. Lead is a very uncommon metal found in the Bible. Now, in previous videos, we have discussed how lead was the seventh of the 7 mountains found in the book of Revelation, chapter 17. So it's related to that also, but that's another day's story. And we have the destination of the basket given, the plain of Shinar in Iraq, where Babylon was located. Mystery Babylon is symbolized by just such a woman known as the harlot. So we have a match, a woman going to Babylon in a basket held by winged creatures, creatures who are also associated with the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which of course we know is sin. So, this just matches in so many ways. And let's see how it fits what the Bible says about this woman. Come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who is seated on many waters, waters meaning nations, with whom the kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality, and with the wine of whose sexual immorality the dwellers on the earth have become drunk. Revelation 17:2. What this says is the woman, wickedness, sits on or rules the nations, commits immorality with the kings of the nations, and gets the people of the nations drunk. The concept of committing immorality with the kings of the earth probably sounds strange to you, but it comes from something back in the ancient days, which was known as holy marriage, where once a year, a temple prostitute from one of the local goddesses and the king of that region would commit immorality in a ritualized event that the whole nation knew about. By this event, the goddess confirmed the king's right to rule, and the king confirmed his allegiance to that goddess. So that is what this strange symbol in the Bible is presenting to us. If the prostitute is the New World Order run by the UN, she confirms the leaders of a nation's right to rule, and the kings confirm their allegiance to the UN and their total control over the world. And we see this event beginning to take place in September of 2024 at an event that the UN is calling the Summit for the Future. In that event, the nations will surrender their sovereignty to the UN, who then will assume total power. And the UN in return will confirm the existing leaders' right to rule. And we see in Revelation 17:2 that associated with this event, there is the wine of this fornication that gets the people drunk or deceives the people. So what is that wine? Historically, in those ancient nations, with this idea of holy marriage, with this immorality between a king and a temple prostitute, when that ceremony occurred, the people of a nation were given wine. It was a celebration. So the bringing this to the modern day, what does this mean? What are the people given then that will get them drunk based on the interaction between the UN, the New World Order, harlot, and the kings of the earth? To me, it's technology. Technology used for evil purposes. Things like the internet, cell phones, AI, etc. What does this wine lead to? Look at what the next verses say. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. Revelation 17:6. It leads to a persecution and martyrdom of the saints. So the woman, the UN governance system, is drunk on the martyrdom of the people of God, and the people of the world are drunk as well, except on technology and knowledge used for deceptive evil purposes, probably with an AI base. Fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This is the contents of the basket. This is the wickedness. And if you notice, the basket in Zechariah 5 is being carried to its destination. That means it was somewhere else first and then carried to Babylon. So where is that basket today before it's carried there? Ever wonder why so many ancient cultures had carvings of the handbag or basket? It has been to many places, brought there by winged creatures, the fallen angels. And the basket is wickedness, fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Satan tempted Eve to eat this fruit with 3 temptations. So when the woman saw the tree was good for food, that's 1, that it was a delight to the eyes, that's 2, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, that's 3, she took of its fruit and ate, Genesis 3:6. The desire of the flesh, it was good tasting. The desire of the eyes, it looked nice. And the pride of life, it was good for making her wise. These are the same 3 temptations all the people of all the nations are facing today. And in 1 John 2:15 through 16, we see these same 3 temptations, but he calls it the love of the world. Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, the desires of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not from the Father, but is from the world. And that's what's in these baskets. Wickedness, love of the world. Now, the earliest of these handbags or baskets were found on the inscriptions in the ruins of the most ancient city that has been discovered, a pre-flood city known as Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. These inscriptions were likely the teachings of the Watchers or fallen angels. So it makes sense that the handbags or baskets are there. Click right here to discover what these inscriptions say and how Noah's great-grandson was likely the one to discover them after the flood. Till then, this is Nelson, and I'll see you there.